How you doing? Okay, so today we're going to talk about the great Chairman Mao. Now, understanding Chairman Mao, you have to understand as well China and the state that China was in when he rose to power in the mid 20th century. You also have to understand Chairman Mao's impact on the world. It cannot be overstated. I mean, imagine a nation where every person of any intelligence is slaughtered. Millions of people are starving. And if you say anything against the new communist government, you're just thrown into a mass grave with everybody else. That's the impact Mao had on China in 1960. Um, Today, China is the only real competitor to America. I mean, there are other developed nations, of course, but China is leading the way and has been for decades in terms of economic growth. They have a massive population, and they are the main competitor to America today. If you look at everything around you, it's made in China. Stuff isn't made in America anymore. They're killing us. They honestly are. I hate to quote Donald Trump, but in terms of manufacturing, China is killing us. Now, why is that? That would be impossible without Chairman Mao. Before Chairman Mao, every single person in China was just a sustenance farmer. All they did was farm enough food for them and their family, and that was it. They did that for 60 years and then they died. Everyone was a peasant. Mao came and said, no, this is going to be the greatest country in the history of the world, and we're going to make it happen together through communism. I'm done with all these wealthy feudal landlords. They're getting slaughtered. We're killing them. And he did. He killed hundreds of thousands of them. We are going to make this a manufacturing nation. And he achieved his goal. The reason I chose to give this speech is because I am not a communist at all, but I am someone who supports truth. And the image that we have been given in America of communism and of Chairman Mao is very distorted. It's not factual. It's extremely biased. All I want to do is give y'all an unbiased look at the impact and importance of Chairman Mao, who, despite his brutality, is easily not only one of the most influential leaders of the past 500 years, but easily one of the best in terms of progress, in terms of success at what he wanted to do. I mean, here in America, we've always been a country of, general freedom and prosperity. We've always been someone where if you want to come here and work hard, with enough luck and a little bit of talent, you can. You can make something of yourself through capitalism. In China, they had feudalism, which meant a few people owned all the land, and you just lived there and worked on it to feed yourself. You couldn't make extra money. There was no extra money to be made. You just fed yourself, and that's it. Every extra crop you gave to the person who owns the land that you lived on, which meant that if you were a peasant, your kids would be peasants, and those kids would be peasants, and your entire lineage and history of family would all be peasants. You were born into nothing. Chairman Mao came along, and he fought tooth and nail to become the supreme leader of China. The people leading China were the Kuomintang, led by Chiang Kai-shek. Chairman Mao started a communist party in college at the university and said, you know what? No, we're not going to deal with this Kuomintang Chiang Kai-shek anymore. Hell no, because he supports the feudal leaders. He supports bureaucracy. No, he's out of here. They went to war. And Kuomintang was much larger, much stronger. These were just college kids and peasants they rounded up. They had no supplies, little money. And so they ended up having to retreat. They retreated in what's called the Long March. Now, the Long March was a 6,000-mile trek from where all of the little communist peasants and supporters went from the south and they went back up north, running away from the Kuomintang. Now, you have to understand, 50% of Mao's people died on the Long March because it's 6,000 miles. But once he traveled so far and survived, at that point he was seen as a hero. He was seen as a god. I mean, these people walked 6,000 miles, and they didn't have Nike free runs like we have now. They were probably in sandals at best, if anything. 6,000 miles. There are people in this room who can't even run 3 miles right now without falling over. 6,000 miles. Once he achieved that, he was immediately a superhero to his people after that. And the Kuomintang was a little scared. But the communists kind of got bailed out by the Japanese. The Japanese came in and started the Second Sino-Japanese War. Now, this is in the 1940s. Now, you have to understand, Japanese people and Chinese people hate each other. Still to this day hate each other because they've constantly been warring forever. And there's a constant rivalry there. Now, the Japanese are some of the most brutal human beings to ever exist on this earth. And when I say brutal, I mean like during the Sino-Japanese War, they would go into villages and towns and cut off the genitals of children and feed it to their parents. They would make parents rape their own kids, and if they refused, they would cut off fingers and toes and limbs until they finally obliged. I mean, the Japanese are utterly insane in the head at this time. I mean, they're literally insane in the head. Their local newspaper in Osaka, Japan, had an ongoing article about who could chop off the most heads. Like, there was a competition within the soldiers who could chop off the most heads. And if they weren't chopping off the heads of soldiers, this was innocent women and children that they were just going in and raping and killing with zero compassion. And still to this day, Chinese people hate the Japanese, and the Japanese hate Chinese. And they have, I guess, good reason to. Because the Japanese murdered over 6 million Chinese people during the Second Sino-Japanese War. 6 million. The Iraq War, we murdered 100,000 civilians during that war. They murdered 6 million. 6 million. That's 60 times what we did. They are insane. And this is at a time when it's the 40s, in the 1940s. They don't have bombs you can just fly over and drop easy. They have bombs, but nothing like they have today. To murder 6 million people, you have to walk up and shoot them or stab them or something. You can't just bomb 6 million like that back then. You had to physically kill them by hand. These people are nuts. Alright? But Mao and the Kuomintang defeated them, and once that happened, they went back to fighting. But because they took a break to fight the Japanese and they banded together, Mao was able to strengthen up and rejuvenate during this Japanese war. And once they went back to fighting each other, Mao was able to easily defeat Chiang Kai-shek. So now that the power struggle is over, Mao's the new leader of China. And what is he going to do? What are we going to do? What is he going to do to deliver on his promises? Now, Chairman Mao, the way communism works is you can't have weak links in the chain. Communism is pretty much socialism. They're just economic systems of everyone working together so they can all feed each other and all provide each other for everything they need, while simultaneously building up the state as a whole. Instead of building up little measly landlords, you're building up your entire nation. It's extremely nationalism based. Well, once you yourself are fed and living okay, it's all about the state, bringing the state together and making it rise up in strength. Okay, so you can't have weak links in the chain. So anybody who ever said anything bad about communism, Mao murdered off the bat. Boom, you're dead. You're out of here. But he could care less. Anybody who was smart at all, who might be a counter-revolutionary, boom, murdered. You're dead. You're out of here. We're not even going to waste our time. Any feudal landlords of the past, boom, dead. You're out of here. Not even going to waste our time. You're out of here. Boom. And then he comes out with the 5-year plan. 5-year plan, what we're going to do in 5 years to make this country great again. Okay? So with the help of Stalin, he put industrial plants in China for the first time, so people could work in industry and manufacturing and bring actual capital to the nation. And then Mao said, hey, nobody can read. Well, nobody could read because one Chinese letter took like 20 different strokes of the hand. I mean, it was nuts. So he simplified it. He made one Chinese word take about 5 to 6 strokes. Just whoom, 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 that's a word. Might even be a whole sentence. It's very weird how it all works together. So, but anyway, my point is from the literacy rate went from 15% in 1949, okay, to over 90% in the mid 70s. So in about 20 years, it went from 15 to over 90% literacy rate. Now, education is the key for people to better themselves and rise. It always has been throughout the history of the entire world. If you're not educated, you're not going to understand what's going on around you, and you're going to be complacent in being a sustenance farmer. But under Mao, he wasn't perfect. Not everything worked to the best of what he thought it would. After the 5-year plans, which succeeded greatly, he instituted the Great Leap Forward, which was pretty much where he told everybody, stop farming. He took everybody that was farming left and said about half of you are going to farm. The other half, you're going to have furnaces in your backyard, all right? And you're going to make steel in your backyard. You're going to make iron in your backyard. Because we're not doing enough manufacturing. We want to do more. So we can't bring in more industrial plants. There's not enough of that. We can't get to everybody because China's a massive country. You people, just make steel in your backyard. We'll come pick it up. The rest will farm and feed everybody else. Well, the people who farmed didn't farm enough to feed everyone. Partly because there wasn't enough farmers left to feed everybody, and partly because Mao gave them horrible farming advice that nearly wiped out the entire country. He said, hey y'all, birds keep eating your crops, so start shooting the birds with slingshots. So these people literally made slingshots with rocks and had competitions. Mao's government would pay whoever could kill the most birds in each village got money. So people would be killing over 100 birds a day by themselves, literally. And I can tell you because my girlfriend's grandma did it. She was out there killing birds with a stone because that's what she was told to do. She thought they was doing the right thing. After that, the bugs ate all the crops because there was no bugs left. There was no birds left to eat the bugs. So the bugs ate all the crops, and they had massive famine. Okay, and millions died. Now, I need you to understand, Mao is responsible for over 40 million deaths. 40 million deaths Mao is responsible for. That is unheard of. He is responsible for more deaths than anybody else doubled. That's how insane this guy is, and that's how much his Great Leap Forward failed. But because of Mao today, China is the fastest developing nation in the entire world by a mile. The economic growth that has been seeing is absolutely unheard of. The people are intelligent, the people buy things, the people make things, and China is a world leader. It leads not only the Far East completely, but it is a world leader in general. And before Chairman Mao, China was nothing but peasants. People said for centuries, China could never be consolidated because it was too big, way too big to consolidate. That's why they always had feudalism where it was patched up because it was too big to consolidate. They always said there's way too many people, you can't feed them all. Unless they farm for themselves, you can't feed them all. Well, they were somewhat right. You couldn't feed them all. That's why Mao came in. He said to his government, if half the people have to die so the other half can eat their fill, then half the people will die. And under Chairman Mao, not quite half, but millions and millions of people died. And sure enough today, the Chinese people are eating their fill. And that wouldn't be possible without him. Thank you, class. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I know it went long. Please give me some feedback to the people in my group about to watch this video. Let me know how terrible it was, how great it was. I know it's 14 minutes and that's absolutely insane. I'm going to work on getting it down. But honestly, I skipped a lot of info, so it could have easily been over 25. But thank you for watching. Let me know how I did it.